Hey, all you space cats. Welcome to the Black Hole Podcast, Season 7, Episode 6. The V-Day special. I'm your host, Mitch Miller, the most transparent person in the world and the most neutral person in the world. Transparent because I post all of my purchases to my Twitter account. I might not be the most transparent person in the world, but I'm definitely the most transparent candidate for President of the United States. Neutral because of my background and my education and just where I've positioned myself in society. So the V-Day special today, I'm going to talk about how I would systematically dismantle the pharmaceutical industry, right? So a little background. My father-in-law was an executive at Johnson & Johnson, a large pharmaceutical and healthcare company. Now, I did an investigation into the Johnson & Johnson company. I didn't set out to investigate them, but things fell in my lap, and in circumstances I've been put in, I continue to find myself in a position to investigate the Johnson & Johnson Corporation and its subsidiary Janssen Pharmaceuticals. I followed that rabbit hole. It took me all over the world because I was trying to talk to political officials about what my findings were. None of them ever approached me. So now here we are, and I'd be happy to talk about these investigations with anyone that would want to talk. But I did an investigation in Johnson & Johnson. I found multiple cases of, at least one case of fraud involving patent number, which a company that owns patents on medical devices and pharmaceuticals, that's a pretty big deal. Multiple cases of fraud or questionably ethical practices at the Johnson & Johnson Corporation. After these investigations, after trying to reach out to government, the media, in a couple different avenues, I became so frustrated that I actually tried to divorce my spouse because of all of the hypotheticals going on in my head as to how these fraudulent situations could be abused. And that did not come to fruition, so I decided to confront my father-in-law about my investigations. And while we were eating on the lawn at his private boat club at the lake where he built a lake house, I did attempt to confront my father-in-law. Now my heart was racing. It was difficult for me to organize my thoughts. But I did try to explain. I explained that his company should hire someone like me, someone neutral, to conduct an investigation, and report to the executives that don't want to operate in a fraudulent or malfeasant way or an unethical way. So I could prepare a report for them and the execs that like to slink around in the shadows and continue to operate that way. It would be maybe they could get those people out of the company, ideally, right? My father-in-law did not agree with me, and when we got back into the car to go back to the lake house, he tried to take me to a mental hospital, specifically the mental ward in his hometown, at the hospital where his family had worked. So I escaped the vehicle temporarily, and that's another story. But it's been over 5 years. I haven't heard from any pharmaceutical, and I investigated other pharmaceutical companies as well, but none as thoroughly as Johnson & Johnson. And again, that wasn't as a personal vendetta. That was simply because things kept landing in my lap. So this is why I have no reservations about systematically dismantling the pharmaceutical industry as president of the United States. Now, big pharma, the pharmaceutical industry, these people, they reap 1,500% profits off of some of their products. 1,500% profit. That's not what I would define as a fair profit. And this is what I mean by mismanagement, right? These corporations, these corporate communists and their corporations, they rig the system for huge profit like that, 1,500%. Or they line up for corporate welfare. They manipulate the politicians so that they get taxpayer money to prop up their business. This is mismanagement, and it's not going to stand with me. I was a small business owner, and these small business owners know how to manage a business on a shoestring budget. They know how to look at every cent, and that's the type of people that should be leading these companies that your retirement relies on, not these executives that are mismanaging and just rely on the systems they manipulated through lobbyists, through campaign donations to make 1,500% profit, right? Now, Big Pharma, they say it's for research. I've heard a lot of these excuses, obviously, in in the conversations I've had over the past 17 years or 20 years, I do try to bring up certain aspects of rational thinking and like to hear the responses. But they say it's for research, but half of the research is paid for by taxpayers, right? Universities get grants for research, and these big pharmaceutical companies step in and cherry pick the best, most profitable prospects for new drugs and medications. So they might invest some in research and development, but the taxpayer pays for a lot of it at these universities. And that's why we should start with universities, I think, to try to rearrange this system so that it looks out for saving people's lives. Right? That's how these executives are able to sleep at night, because they believe they're saving people's lives, but they could save a lot more people's lives if they didn't have 1,500% profits. Now, we start with the universities. They already have, a lot of these universities already have large or mid-size or small nonprofit hospital systems. So they have an entity that is a nonprofit. So what I want to do is enact a bill that would allow for the formation of nonprofit entities, for universities to form nonprofit entities that can manufacture pharmaceuticals, right? And these would be transparent, a lot more transparent than our hospital systems. That's what we're going for here, is transparent businesses. If we could get Big Pharma to be transparent, maybe there wouldn't be all these slush funds, and we could see where the profit is going instead of slush funds for covert operations or whatever they're doing with that money. So transparent, these entities can produce drugs, produce the low-risk drugs, the common drugs like insulin, heart medication, blood thinners, some psych meds, and birth control. These bread and butter drugs that are low risk, that these universities could manage. The entity itself would have a liability aspect so that you can't take down the whole university if something goes wrong. But these are the standard drugs that have been in manufacture for 50 years, 70 years. Let's take those off of the plate of the big pharmaceutical companies and make them in-house at our universities. And if they really think that they're spending good money on research and development, let them go after the high-risk drugs, since they're getting 1,500%, 1,700% profit, right? Put their money where their mouth is, I guess, is the logic behind this. But on the note of birth control, I want to talk a little bit about my experience with my spouse, uh, because I don't know if it's because it's free, because they enacted that law years ago that birth control is free for everyone. But because of that, my theory is that they switch manufacturers on this birth control. So you have a prescription for the hormonal or whatever birth control pills. That's what my spouse is on. But every 3 months when we go to the pharmacy, they'll switch the manufacturer. It's the same prescription, but they switch manufacturer. Well, every manufacturer is slightly different. She's noticed, sometimes we'll get 6 months on the same prescription, but she notices physical effects in her body because it's a different manufacturer. And this is ridiculous in my opinion. And I think and she has these physical effects until she gets used to it. So in the second month, it's not as bad, and then month 3, and then we go get another prescription, and it's a different manufacturer, and it's all over again. So this is my theory is that the pharmaceutical companies are covering their liability, covering their risk, these different manufacturers by swapping it up, and these are millions, tens, hundreds, I don't know how many million women are on birth control, but they're swapping the manufacturers on you, and just to cover risk and liability. And another dubious theory I have is that they could actively be experimenting on the female population of the United States, and I'll explain how this happens. My question is, who funds patient record tracking software, right? And I'm going to look into this as president. If these pharmaceutical companies are funding the software that hospitals and doctors and physicians use to track patients and their side effects, then Big Pharma could actively be experimenting on the population, right? They get the drug passed through the FDA through the trials, but their trials continue because they can have backdoors into this software and see the side effects coming up on populations of people, right? So, for instance, say women could keep the same manufacturer and prescription of birth control, and then certain women develop ovarian cysts with a certain manufacturer. This could be red flagged on the software, and the pharmaceutical company could see this and then do damage control, right? That's what these pharmaceutical companies are good at, damage control. So that's just an example using women's birth control. But other drugs like psych meds and things like that, you could see how this could be abused. So I think funding for patient record tracking software should not ever come from any subsidiary of a pharmaceutical company or any executive or any ownership. It should all be separated so that there's not backdoors and availability to get in and see this. So what I would do as president for women on birth control, like my spouse, is I would develop a program. It's free for everyone. I don't think women would mind paying $1 per month to ensure that they can stay on the same manufacturer so that they don't feel these physical side effects. So, I don't know what the expenditure would be to do this, so we're going to go with $1. A special program where women can pay $1 when they get their prescription per month, and the pharmacy must carry the same manufacturer for their prescription as long as they pay $1. So that's my idea for that. Now, these pharmaceutical companies, they use patents to secure their profit. They patent these drugs. They use the patent system to secure these huge profits. And that's why one of the investigations I did involved patent fraud. And I believe I have the tools that, if I'm president, to really rearrange things and shake things up in the pharmaceutical industry. Look, life-saving medicine should be public domain, right? And I think ethically most people would agree with that. It's just we've been manipulated by the media to allow these companies to do this. So I'm going to look into patent law, and I'm going to see if we can pass some law or propose some bills where no organic material, even if it's derived synthetically, can be patented. That's my proposal. So these drugs that are organic or hormones or anything like that, they can't be patented. And this could help farmers with the GMOs, and I'll get into that in the next episode. The genetically modified organisms, owning the plants, owning the seeds. This could help with this too. So I think it needs to happen. I think this type of patent reform should come about to help farmers, to help people, patients, and the public. Now, as for nuclear medicine, sorry, I have a little bit of an accent. I don't know if you've ever noticed, so I pronounce words a little different. But nuclear medicine is a non-organic. It's radioactive material. And as for that type of medicine, these are usually cancer treatments. Look, the nuclear program is highly regulated. It's part of the state secrets. I think there should be something the president should be able to do to lower the cost of nuclear medicine to the lowest it possibly should be because of the sensitive nature of handling radioactive material. It's highly regulated. So there should be something with national security, with the laws and regulations, and there should be some type of mandate that the president can do to lower these drugs to the lowest possible. Whether it's any company involved with nuclear medicine has to be transparent so that we can see the profits and see the executive pay structure and things like that. I don't know. I'm going to look into it as president. I'm going to try to lower all this stuff as low as possible. So other ideas I have, patients involved in the clinical trials, I think they should get a cut of the profit from the pharmaceutical companies. This is another way to get transparency from pharmaceutical companies. They have to show specifically what profit they're making off of these drugs and cut in the trial patients, and rather than just getting $600 for being in the trial, you get a cut of the profit in perpetuity, hypothetically. And I think these clinical trial patients should be able to vote through direct democracy on how that drug is used or released, or what countries we allow to manufacture it as well, things like that. So that is some of the ideas I have for not necessarily dismantling the pharmaceutical industry as we know it. We'll put it that way. And there's still profit to be made. It might be a fair profit, not 1,500%, but there will still be intelligent people that will try to help, bring pharmaceuticals to market. Now, I'll close on this idea because, look, say I don't win the presidency, right? Which is a very real possibility I'm aware of. And I just want to settle down back in my hometown and open a pub. Now, you know me, it's going to be the most direct democracy managed pub with different ideas for the community and mental health and things like that. And I just want to open this pub, but how do you go, say I wanted to try to secure funding to open my pub, investment. How do you go to a former retired executive and say, look, I need $100,000 to buy a pub. The profit's only going to be 20 or 30% a fair profit. This person's been used to making 1,700% profits his whole life. right? They're going to laugh you out of the room. There's no point of even bringing it up. And that's what these corporate communists with their rigged system, you can't even approach them about these things because they're if you're not making exponential profit, they're not even going to consider it. And that's why we don't have the innovation we should have in this country, the United States of America, because they're not interested unless it's rigged so that you're the only person that's going to be able to deliver this to market, or you're going to get some kind of welfare from the government and manipulate the law and all kinds of stuff, right? So, I'd be fine being a simple pub owner. If you'd like to invest in my pub idea, it's published on I believe the trafnet.org website. But I'll close on if you want to support the duel.us website, where everyone can vote on who I should challenge to a duel. You can buy our Make Duels Not War t-shirt. They're for sale at Original Ideas Gallery in Berwick, Pennsylvania. You can also contact me for these. They have two dueling pistols crossing each other. I came up with the idea for the design. Bill Earl designed it. Originally, I thought the idea should be Duels Not War. He added Make Duels Not War, which I think is a good addition. So obviously, Bill will get a cut from any of these t-shirt sales, but my cut will go towards building the website duel.us. Also, we have There's No Can't in American shirts. These are my campaign shirts. They come in red, blue, and white, and they have that color scheme in the wording. And any sales of these will go towards my campaign and building the Periscope platform so that we can vote on who my vice president should be, vote on the Secretary of State, Secretary of the Treasury. So consider purchasing these shirts. Contact me. And if you have a small shop or a gallery and you'd like to carry these shirts, I can probably front. I've printed 1,000 of them, or several hundred of them make. There's No Can't in American shirts. I have those in stock. I'd be happy to send you some to put up in your shop, your store, your gallery. So thanks for listening, and until next time, I wish you peace, prosperity, and homeostasis.